Welcome to Podadelphia, and this is sort of a different kind of show for everyone today. Let's have Jason Ready from the Cleveland Lions. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm hanging out with you for a bit. Fourth quarter's about to start. I'm gonna go on mute. You're gonna talk. Gene's gonna join. You guys, Podadelphia is gonna lead us into the end of this game. We're gonna have a bunch of people on live stream interacting with you. As soon as the game's over, this will become the post game live stream. You guys will help run it. We'll talk to the coach. We'll talk to the players. It's a crossover episode.
Sounds great. Sixers tonight. Really just came out of the gates pretty hot from beyond the arc, and just really haven't looked back. So it's been a pretty enjoyable game to watch, especially coming off of Sunday night's stinker, both for the Sixers and the Flyers. So it's been a fun night to watch the Sixers tonight, especially on a night when Ben Simmons is named to the All-Star game, and they really just look like they're clicking on all cylinders against the Eastern Conference rival. So just sit back and enjoy the fourth quarter. We'll see what unfolds here.
Yeah, I know you guys tend to do a lot of hockey stuff. Let me see if you can see that behind me.
Oh yeah.
It's funny because I was having a long conversation with another media member about cities, their weather, and their sports fans. And I truly believe that only bad weather cities have great sports fans. And yet I looked at the NHL attendance statistics, and the last full season with fans, the Lightning had more fans in their arena than the Flyers did. I have no idea how that's true. What's going on there?
Well, good will always generate more excitement than really anything else. And when your team is hot, the city just has, no matter where they are, have a certain energy to it. I mean, I would suspect the San Diego Padres this baseball season are going to have spectacular attendance, depending on how many people they let through the gate based on COVID and everything, because that's an exciting team. And, Fernando Tatis in a city that traditionally does not have great attendance for that sport. So Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, that's year in and year out. They put a consistent contending product on the ice for, I guess, the past decade or so. So, no surprise that they've generated a pretty exciting fan base there. So, yeah, I mean, winning will always pull out.
Yeah, but it's 75 degrees. Why would you go inside to watch people play on ice?
It's the novelty, man.
Yeah, novelty. I get novelty. So you go to a game once a year, maybe? How are they drawing 19,000 fans every night? I don't understand it.
I don't know.
But hey, look,
yeah, I agree with you on the cold weather thing, man. There's just the cold weather cities do generate the best fan bases for sure. Cold,
gray, rainy, shitty weather, great fans. It's just those two things are connected.
It sure is.
And it's this is not a critique on good weather cities. It's like, go do something else. Of course you're going to go do something else. Why wouldn't you do San Diego? Like, of all the things you could do in San Diego, going to a baseball game, I don't know why.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe if you live there, it's a different feel. I've never experienced living in a pleasant area.
Well, if you go to like a Dodger, to me, I think Dodger Stadium is baseball heaven, right? It's the greatest place on the planet to watch a baseball game. But the LA fans, they show up in the third inning, they leave in the seventh inning, they get their Instagram photo. For someone not from LA, it's like amazing. It's such an amazing place to watch a game. But if you're from LA, like, I just can think of 100 different things you could do.
Is that LA vibe or is that strictly traffic related?
I think it's just LA vibe. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna go do 5 different things, right? And the night starts later. So you're gonna stop at Dodger Stadium. You're gonna, hang out there for an hour or so, and then you're gonna go do a different thing, and you're gonna have hiked or run or surfed or been in Santa Monica or done
Sure.
all of the things you can do when it's 75 degrees out.
Yeah. Drive the
So
Pacific Coast Highway just for fun.
just all of the things that having super nice weather. We get that weather. What? 30 days a year. We get like perfect weather.
Sure.
Are you? Those are the days I call out of work sick.
I hear you.
Those are not days I'm like, ooh, is there a baseball game I can go sit down for 3 hours and watch?
Yeah. The switch from cold to oppressive humidity is a pretty fast flip.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. All right, so
Toronto's trying to make a game of this now.
It's their defense really does give the Sixers problems, and it doesn't show up maybe in the totals, but they're able to play this switching recovery defense that forces the Sixers into 5-6 passes per possession. They get deep into the shot clock. The tension starts to build late in that shot clock, so that technically that's an open shot, but it feels less comfortable.
Is there something that other teams can't seem to replicate what they do to really shut down Embiid? Because this is like another game where Embiid's, getting frustrated, I think.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of guys in the league that just understand how close they can stand to him, guard him.
Yeah.
And they're big enough to not get beat off the dribble by him if they get too close. And there's a lot of the smaller guys they have to find that balance of they can't back off too far. They'll get a shot over them. And there are just a few guys. Marcus Gasol, not fast, but big. Baines is a big body, just strong enough. There's just a few, and they double immediately. They double while the ball's in the air, and he sees it. So while the ball's coming to him, he's already uncomfortable. There's certainly a book, and a lot of people try it, but it's very interesting to see consistently the teams that manage to make him uncomfortable. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Did Doc guess right today with Korkmaz in the starting lineup, or was this a calculated move?
I think they had a game plan, and Seth Curry was a late scratch, so they needed next man up in that role.
Right.
And they just sort of have guys in that role, and
and it worked out.
I think, and they're probably not trying to overwhelm Isaiah Joe, so you keep Isaiah Joe sort of in the role that he was Sunday, even though he played more, I think, Sunday than he has tonight. So you just take the more veteran guy and throw him in the starting lineup. So I don't know. It feels like they had a very specific game plan that they've walked into in with, and Seth being a late scratch just made Korkmaz the guy.
Yeah, and I guess the numbers game kind of evened out from the third quarter on Sunday to the first quarter tonight.
Yeah.
Which is, in terms of shots just falling, I mean, it just seemed like Sunday night was like a nightmare. Watching that game wind down.
It was they dominated the glass. The Raptors tried to get cute, play really small. Sixers just completely dominated them on the glass. They put in Baines. Embiid never got comfortable.
Yeah.
And then the Raptors, just that small ball lineup adjusted. played the Sixers evenly on the glass for the rest of the game. And then their speed and their ability. It's funny that they're called the Raptors because I think I don't really remember those movies very well, but wasn't there like a scene in Jurassic Park where there's a T-Rex and then there's all the little velociraptors that just
that's
swarm?
that's the closing scene of the first one,
Well, that's kind of how this plays out, right? Embiid is the T-Rex, and you got all these little wings just swarming all over him, doubling him every second.
In the movie, though, that T-Rex takes care of business.
Oh.
So hopefully we have
we'll
the
see
same
how
result
tonight goes. I mean, the other night, the T-Rex did not take care of business.
No. T-Rex
did not. He did not. It was a bad turnover there.
Oh, you may be a little bit ahead of me.
I think I'm right on time. I think mine is like right.
Oh, really?
I mean, I'm sitting here, so I think I'm on time.
Yeah, you're right. That was a bad turn.
That's why you never do play-by-play on a live stream.
Yeah,
no one is on exactly the same time.
So how slighted should Tobias feel about not being named to the All-Star game? I'm not too bent about it.
So yeah, this is a big conversation for Keith Pompey and Kai Carlin and I on our way here today. We talked about who would it be, Ben or Tobias, and I just think that Tobias benefits from all of the things that the two stars do. It creates. Yeah. He becomes the third thing the other team has to think about, and for that reason, if you're reliant on other people doing the thing for you so that you can be your best, then it's hard to get too worked up about a guy not making the All-Star game. Yeah. In my opinion, it's like the other two guys.
Who do you feel would have been the All-Star that would have been left out? Like who would Tobias replace on the All-Star team?
Oh, I have to go back through the list because that just came out while I've been here.
Oh yeah.
Go through the list of reserves for me.
Yeah, let me bring it up. NBA's All-Star reserves. List. Okay, you got Jaylen Brown, Harden, Tatum, Levine, Julius Randle, Simmons, and Vucevic.
So Randle, you acknowledge he's had a breakout year.
Yeah.
But
and Ben Simmons is in as a forward here. Just saying.
Yeah, it's a real debate. I don't have a strong opinion on. I think he's
like if you're in the Tobias should have made it camp, you gotta convince me which one of these guys he should replace.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue that he makes it over any of those guys, but I do think he's probably the first injury replacement.
Yeah, sure.
So if any of these guys would rather rest, I think he gets the call.
Yep.
So, ultimately this might not matter. This might be a Tuesday, a week and a half before the All-Star game type of conversation. Right. That just doesn't matter on March 7th at all because he probably is in uniform.
Yep.
All right.
Hey, Gene.
What's up, Gene?
How's it going, guys?
Good. So now that Gene's here, I'm going to drop out. You guys keep running. I'll be right back as soon as this game's over. 6 minutes left in the game. I'll be back right as soon as it's over, and we'll do some post-game stuff.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, man.
Enjoy.
Gene, glad you got here safely. Hands at 10-2 all the way here.
Yep. Yeah, man. Just making sure I avoided all the puddles. Now it used to be ice, now it's puddles.
Yeah.
What were you guys rapping about? How great Furkan Korkmaz is?
Well, we talked a little about Furkan in the lineup today. We talked a little All-Star snubbing maybe of Tobias Harris, and who he would possibly have to bump out if you wanted him to make the team.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just talking about a nice performance coming off of a real Sunday stinker. But yeah, Toronto really is trying their darndest to make a game out of this.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto seems like they're sort of that team that they're not the type to just sort of roll over. I don't know if that's a combination of their particular skill set against this particular Sixers team or what. But Sarah's asking if where we can find the podcast. It's a good thing that we brought that up, because you can always find this podcast on Twitter at Podadelphia. It's very important to note. We're always there.
Yeah. So we're kind of just checking out the last quarter here of the Sixers game, and do you want to talk a little bit about your experience Sunday night?
We can.
I mean, I was just saying how refreshing it is watching this game and a strong Sixers performance, particularly in the first quarter, coming off of what was a miserable Philadelphia Sports Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, the whole combination of Philadelphia Sports Sunday was not fun. But I sort of dug into the Sixers early because of the delays in the Flyers game. So I kept just hoping that because of the way the lineups were laid out, because Toronto was shorthanded, that at some point the Sixers were going to go on that run that was just going to put Toronto away. And it just never happened. And then as we got into the second half, Toronto seemed to just look stronger and stronger and stronger.
Well, nothing was going down. And then this Boucher cat started hitting everything.
And I had never even heard of that guy before Sunday night, or if I heard about him, I certainly didn't pay him any attention other than like, hey, maybe he's the water boy. But yeah, no, I don't think I've seen a Sixers team have such bad shot luck. Literally just things that you see Joel Embiid hit night after night after night were just rimming off or rimming out. It was almost as if there was, I think as you had said, that maybe they were trick rims or something, because it just seems like we could not get any sort of a gentle.
Everything did that. Everything had that kind of shot to it where, it hit the back of the rim, then it hit the front of the rim, and then would roll out. So I don't know. It really was. So, obviously the ball had the correct rotation on it. It just was just rotten luck. It felt like going down the stretch, and then you'd flip over to the Flyers game, and while everything looked very beautiful there,
it looked really nice as far as like pictures were concerned. It looked really nice in terms of like foliage and seeing people in canoes, and you almost wanted to hear like the Masters theme playing over it. But then they decided to play a hockey game.
One team did.
Yeah, one team did. Well, for like a period, it seemed like
we were there. We had the lead after the first period, right?
I think it was tied.
It's 2-1? No, yeah.
I think it was tied at 2 after 1. But Chuck's not here to correct me, so we're going to go and tie it 1.
Can we stop scheduling these games during the day and pretending like we're going to be able to pull that off? That's
very frustrating, because you would think that they would have learned by now. I guess they're looking for a particular backdrop, but it doesn't help the players. It doesn't help the ice. It doesn't help the viewers who tune in on time and have to wait an hour and a half for the game to start. It really doesn't help anybody who was a fan of the Avalanche or Golden Knights. Game resumed like at midnight Eastern time.
I mean, fortunately for them, it was a Western Conference game, so that's 9:00 for their fans. Not too bad, but yeah, that's ridiculous. If you were trying to watch that on the East Coast, and you're like, okay, we're going to resume this game at midnight. Okay,
isn't sort of the whole point like to bring in fans that might not traditionally watch those?
Sure, with those outdoor games, yeah, that's what you want to see.
Man, the Sixers are definitely trying to hold this team off.
Yeah, really, man. I don't know.
It's
And I heard during the broadcast this is to decide the season series between the Sixers and the Raptors. Is this the last time we play the Raptors this season?
Either that, or there would be no way they could catch. Like, this would give us like enough wins that they wouldn't be able to catch.
Oh, okay.
Or
but they made it sound like whoever won this game would win the season series. So I'll look at that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's sort of frustrating. When you watch basketball and most of the first half, you're like, man, where'd the time go? And then you get into the second half and it's like, Jesus, this is the longest 4 minutes of my life.
It is so telling about the sport that, how it's such a game of runs that, the Sixers were up 21 points in the second quarter at one point. And no lead is ever safe in a basketball game. That's what makes the sport great,
My father was always one that was like, when I would start a Sixers game or whatever, he'd always be like, I'm going to go do something else. Call me when they get into the fourth quarter. Then I'll come and
pay. No, I mean, I understand that. I understand that sentiment. But I mean, there's a story that unfolds during the course of the whole game
I think that it's very much like it's the same thing. Like, if you watch a prize fight, like it's things that happen in the first round have effect in round 7, 8, 9. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's a cumulative effect. Otherwise, why would you have it be 4 quarters, and why wouldn't every sport only be 5 minutes?
And like Ben got two fouls really early in this game, and he had to sit for a while. But and actually, when he got the second foul, they commented on the broadcast where he was gesturing to Doc, like, I'm fine, leave me in, and I don't know, were you watching during the first quarter at all?
I think I had the audio on.
So he said, leave me in, and Doc left him in. But on that next play, there was some pretty scrappy defensive chases that he had there that I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to get called for a third foul. He's going to get called for a third foul. And if that happened, I mean, that would have been...
That's bad. That
really changed there. 3 fouls in the first quarter from your all-star.
Yeah. And that got announced today, didn't it?
It did. I think just before game time.
I think his performances over the last week and a half have really sort of managed to push him over the top. I know he there was no question, maybe, here, obviously he was going to get votes, but I think it sort of allowed him to sort of prove to some people maybe that were on the fence that we're still.
Well, the reserves how did the reserves get selected? Is that coach's vote?
Well, if it was coach's vote and then Doc was named the Eastern Conference coach, I guess that sort of helps you out. Or maybe it's the whole NBA.
I don't know if it's half coach's vote, half player vote.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Jay when he rejoins us. I'm not sure exactly how that's all figured out. I know the All-Star process.
It's 50% fan vote. I don't know. It's some combination here. But with 3 minutes left, with a 13-point lead, this should be safe.
You would hope.
Yeah. You'd hope.
Do you think is there actually going to be an All-Star game, or is it going to sort of just be an empty title this year, like you are an All-Star?
No, I think there will be a game. There should be a game. Why not?
I mean, I guess partly because then you've got to take like the time off, and then you've got to get all those people to one location. Although basketball is still playing both conferences, it's not like hockey where they've sort of bubbled within the division.
Well, now I have a friend who went to her first. She relocated to Arizona. She went to her first Phoenix Suns game when they played the Sixers last week.
Oh wow! Like within the friendly confines of COVID arena.
Oh, stop. And they have like 2,500 fans in there, and she said it was a great experience. She said the tickets were expensive, of course. But expensive for, I don't know. What do you think about it? If the Sixers said, okay, we're going to let 2,500 fans into the center per game, what do you think those tickets would go for?
Well, I mean, my thought would be that you would sort of go by.
And what would you pay? What do you think they would go for, and what would you pay?
I think for that sort of experience, I think I'd be willing to pay like $150 to $200 a seat, because you're going to go in there in a much smaller environment. Just being in the center is going to be a much different environment than when it's a packed house.
Gene, what do you think? What do you think Sixers tickets cost regularly?
Well, for where I sit, they don't cost $200. But I guess I was thinking you would go with like sort of like a middle, like, average. That to me would be what you would call like the higher, it's not courtside, but the
Right.
higher.
Well, let's just say so. All right,
You'd actually want people to show up.
Clearly, these seats are going to go to season ticket holders, right? Like that.
Yeah.
They're not just going to go. Okay, we're going to let 2,500 people in. The tickets on sale Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Like that's not going to happen. It would go, and they have petitioned the city. All the teams have petitioned the city now to allow. Is it the city or the state? They have petitioned to allow limited fans in the stands. So this is probably going to happen sooner rather than later. And I would think they would go to season ticket holders. Or at least they would have the opportunity, which they're going to get bought up. Whether you're going to go or not, you're going to buy them. And then what are they going to go for on the secondary? I mean, honestly, I think they would go $350 a ticket.
I think that's probably very reasonable when you take those things into consideration. The other thing is, I wonder if there would be a thing with the system where you wouldn't want to necessarily have it go to like a secondary market, because maybe you'd sort of want to have some control over who is coming into the building. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I guess you're not insisting on COVID tests to walk in the door. You're sort of hoping that just by the fact that you are keeping it limited, you're sort of reducing your risk factor anyway. I am much more optimistic that you're going to see people in limited capacity in a baseball stadium before I think that Philadelphia is going to see people in the Sixers and Flyers.
No, I think you're going to see people in the arena. I mean, I think they're going to get the approval before the Phillies even start playing.
Oh well, that'd be great. This whole thing, you've got so many factors sort of crashing into each other. This sort of really does enter the realm of like city politics. Which in Philadelphia traditionally can be sort of a sticky wicket, as they say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know Cactus League games are already. I mean, they're sold out.
Yeah,
the whole spring.
Yeah, they got bought up quick too.
Yeah, I don't know about Grapefruit. I'm sure that Florida's just jamming people in there as much as possible. Frenchies is going to be butt to butt out there in the outfield.
God, do you remember when we were down there? I guess in 05, going over there and the size portions for those breakfasts they gave us.
At Lenny's?
Yeah, at Lenny's. I just remember the amount of potatoes. That's right.
It's all starch.
Yeah, I just remember I was like, my God, I think they've just given me 3 potatoes. There are eggs in here somewhere.
Speaking of which, did you see the Bryce Harper picture that showed up on Instagram today?
Really? Yeah.
He's got like a Phillies fanatic bat.
Well, and it made me think of, do you remember when there were all those rumors going up to his signing that there's a bat company, I think it's
Victory, right?
Yeah. And they had done a mock-up fanatic bat, I believe, for Bryce Harper at the time. And it was before he signed, and it was like it went all around the Twitterverse, and it was sort of like, this is a sign. It means if they're building these fanatic bats, it means he's really coming.
Yeah.
I think that it was probably tweeted out originally by John Heyman or something, but he was tweeting out everything at the time. But it was one of those things where it was another one of those. There was every day you were going through Twitter or whatever, looking for the signs and the stars for whether Bryce was coming. I don't know if that could have been one of those things where they were just like, hey, we'll send him this bat. Maybe it'll entice him to come here. Who knows? But that was immediately what I thought of. But I loved that shirt that he had on, the Clearwater.
That's pretty cool.
If there's ever been an athlete that just absolutely knows exactly what buttons to push to like get the fan base sort of foaming at the mouth.
So John Clark tweeted that picture, and I swear I found the shirt online within 5 minutes of that tweet going out, because I was like, I'm buying the shirt. I'm just buying the shirt. Like, I don't care, whatever. I find it on the Etsy shop, and they tell you how many people have it in their cart at that time. So I found it. I felt like I found it immediately. There are already 20 people that had that item in their cart, like at that moment. So that Etsy shop is just blowing up. I think it's Philly HQ is the name of the company or whatever that's making.
Like, you're gonna get your shirt's gonna get worn by Bryce.
Yeah, you
Harper,
better stock up.
Like, you better
stock up on XLs.
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna get a day on Shark Tank. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when mine comes in, I'll post a picture of me like side by side with Bryce, and we can do like a who wore it better poll.
Yeah, well, I mean, is yours coming with extra words, or I don't know?
No.
I feel like you're just going to need some filler around it. Maybe
I don't need any filler. I got enough filler all my own. I got my Jackie Robinson shirt on today.
I was noticing that. I hadn't seen that yet. It looks like we had. I thought we were going to get broken into there.
I had this shirt last year, and we were watching the Sixers playoff game, and what's his name? Al Horford he wears number 42, and he had equality on the back of his jersey during the playoffs last year. And the person I was watching with says, I don't know, an Al Horford shirt.
No, it's not an Al Horford.
I was like, no, but that's an amazing coincidence.
Yeah. I feel like you would have to have something like the words would have to be like slowly like getting worse or something. I illustrate that it was actually for Al Horford.
Yeah, what do we got? We got here 40 seconds left in this game with a 10-point lead. Looks like the Sixers pretty much have this locked up, and we get to stay ahead of the Nets at first place in the East. And I know the Nets are locked in a battle with the Kings right now. What's the score of that game?
I don't know. Hey, did you also, speaking of Sixers fashion, did you see floating around there was I think it's just I don't know if it's an official shirt, but it was a t-shirt I saw where, and this is one of these things that always cracks me up when you get close to March. It was a Sixers shirt, I guess, that was supposed to be for St. Patrick's Day, and it had a shamrock on it. It was like a black shirt, like a Sixers logo. It was like, Philadelphia 76ers, but like at the top of it, it had a big shamrock.
No, that's so like, who made that?
Which is very problematic, I feel, if you're a Sixers fan.
That's really tone deaf to make
like
that.
You had an Eagles shirt that was surrounded by blue and silver stars. Philadelphia Eagles, and then like or like
check out my orange and blue Phillies hat
written in Giants font or something. You know what I mean? Or if it just said Philadelphia football team, I don't know how you could even right now.
Oh man, we traded our starting quarterback this week. Did you hear about that, Gene?
We did. Where'd Jalen Hurts go?
Yeah, no, stop. Ben's been knocking down the free throws this year.
I'll tell you, it seems like this team in general has been a really good free throw shooting team. And the nights that it's off, they seem to be all off at the same time. But Ben's been really good at the free throw line. It seems like every time they're listing the statistic he's using.
I mean, they got it all figured out. Look, Brett Brown goes, Ben, I want you to take a 1 3-pointer a game. He gives him like the double bird. Doc says, once you get to the free throw line 10 times a game. Ben's like, okay, whatever you say, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, Ben starts to average a triple double, and his points.
I mean, but they really have it figured out now. How those two can't play together.
It seems like they're playing really well together, honestly.
I know, but man, it's like, they can't coexist. One of them's got to go. Okay, you got a first place team right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's incredible. I don't think anybody would have thought or would have been disappointed if this team was like a solid 3 seed in the East right now. I think everybody would sort of been like, that's sort of about where, or a little above where I thought they were expectation wise. but they've exceeded my expectation. But it's really easy to do that when you've got a center who averages the points that he does.
Mhm.
It really does sort of put into perspective when you look at the points leaders and you see a guy that's as big as Embiid, where he sits in terms of the average per game. It makes you sort of understand the reason why that's so important is because no other team has a guy that big that can do that. So all of your other players that you have on your team that are skill guys and scorers, well, obviously they're going to be enhanced by the fact that you are generally the position that is supposed to be the anchor of the defense is also, putting up points at an MVP level. So it really does sort of make you aware keenly, especially if you watch this team, how much it really helps give this team something that is particularly unusual in today's NBA. You don't see 7-foot guys that can put up 50. You just don't. You haven't really seen that since like Shaq, and he did it in a completely different way. Embiid is so much closer to a guy like Olajuwon with his footwork than what we had come to know as the power center that we saw sort of at the 2000s. Shaq sort of being the guy that was in that mold. He's the last truly dominant center that I think I can remember. Can you think of any other 7-foot guys, any dominant centers between Shaq and Embiid? Because I just can't think of anybody that sort of had that ability to take over a game whenever they wanted to.
Yeah, no, not at this level. And I
you
mean, if you watch the Bulls game, was just insane.
Yeah.
It was unconscious.
Yeah, no, it was, and I
mean,
think,
and the threes and the Euro step, it's just wild, man.
Right. And that's the thing is, Shaq had particular weaknesses. You could sort of get him to the foul line, and you knew that he wasn't going to hit nearly as many foul shots. You really, you can't foul Joel and expect him not to make you pay most nights.
Now look, Embiid did not play well in this game, and the Raptors really gave him a lot of fits with the double teams and the way they space him defensively. And Jason and I talked a little bit about that earlier, but he still scratched out a double-double.
Right.
With 17 points, 11 rebounds. And I mean, to say like, okay, well, this was a really bad game for him today, and that's still the production that you're getting, it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, that was the thing, and I don't know if it's something you and I talked about. It's one of those things is like there are certain players that you end up having on your team where you almost get greatness blindness, where you're so used to seeing that player do something that is pretty unusual or pretty extraordinary on a nightly basis that it takes them doing something really, really incredible to sort of make you sit up and take notice. But when you've got a guy like this, you really have to sort of put it into the perspective of we are watching what is probably at the end of the day going to be one of the guys that's going to be listed as a cornerstone of the entire history of the franchise. And
well, I was playing 2K with my son, and we play every weekend. And he wanted to play all-time teams. So he was the all-time Lakers, and I was the all-time Sixers.
Okay, great, good.
And Embiid is on that team.
Yeah, he should be. And that's what I was going to say. I mean, like the Sixers, it's not like this is a franchise that has had a bunch of bumps. I mean, you have Dr.
I got smoked, by the way.
Well, game. I mean, it's the
all-time Lakers are pretty unconscious team.
You should have played him as the all-time Bulls.
I don't think they're good as either of those teams.
I don't know. Maybe the all-time Celtics maybe could counterpunch.
That would be the only other team in that. I think that would be the Mount Rushmore of the all-time teams.
Yeah.
The Sixers.
Next
Lakers,
weekend, you've got to make him. You throw those two teams out, and you make him. You should try to play like the two worst teams you can come up with. Maybe like the all-time Hornets, all-time
Hawks or something.
I was gonna say Cavaliers, but they'll have LeBron.
Yeah,
no, that's nuts. But yeah, I mean, the Sixers have a great pedigree, especially they have a great pedigree of big men. They had Moses Malone, they had Will Chamberlain.
Happy birthday, Dr. J.
Happy birthday, Dr. J. Did you see what's his name? That comedian from I'm not gonna remember his name. He's
Jim
famous.
Gaffigan.
No, he's
I don't know.
He's got a very dirty mouth. He's got curly hair. He used to show up on the league once in a while. He's famous for being a trash talker in fantasy leagues. I'm completely drunk.
Oh, okay. I
But
think
anyway,
I think I know who you're talking about, but go ahead.
he did a shout out, like a whole shout out to Dr. J on his birthday. I'm not friends with Dr. J on Facebook, so if that's how I know whose birthday it is. So if I don't see in the morning when I wake up whose birthday it is on Facebook, I have no idea whose birthday it is. So I have to wait until.
You know who's not on the Sixers all-time team in NBA 2K?
Raja Bell.
Charles Barkley.
Oh, does he show up on all-time Phoenix?
Charles Barkley's not in the game.
Do you think, is that like a rights thing? How would he not? He's in the top 50 players of all time.
Charles Barkley's not in the game. He's not, and he also doesn't. You know, they in 2K they do the TNT desk. You know, with Shaq, and all that. He's not in that either. And he said that he will not be in the game until 2K donates $1 million to the Retired Players Fund.
That's what he's holding out for, is some money for the Retirement Players Fund?
Yeah.
He could make that on the golf course like next weekend. By betting again.
Look, I don't. Yeah, you have to take it up with him if you got a problem with his stand on this, but he's certainly.
I had no idea he had a stand on this. Actually, I do kind of respect that. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll make him my what do they call that? My role model.
Sarah asked if TJ Miller is the one you're referring to.
No, not TJ Miller, but that's a good guess.
A Carrot Top?
No, it would be better if it was Carrot Top. If Carrot Top was a big Sixers fan.
Sixers hanging on to a 6-point lead here with 20 seconds left.
Yeah, I know, as they just try to bleed every ounce of my time.
My Lord. It's really just making the Raptors. You know, my son hates the Raptors more than any other team in the NBA.
Well, that makes sense.
He doesn't know the Celtics hate yet.
No, he hasn't had a chance to. I mean, there have been reasons, but if there was a team, if I was your son's age, that I would hate, it would have to be the Raptors. I mean, that's the team that did the dirtiest deed. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it last week. I don't want to revisit it, but like that broke him that night.
Right. Well, it broke Joel too.
Yeah. This is my son and Joel.
Yeah.
They were bound by salty tears.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what growing up, like what teams, you know what I mean? Like there was no, and I am a connoisseur of teams I'm supposed to hate. You know what I mean? I knew those things very early. But part of that was the way I was raised. My father used to like constantly sort of remind me of who my different rivalries were, you know, and remind me of who I was supposed to hate. Now, interestingly enough, being that I was born in 1980, the Royals used to show up on that list and when we would talk about baseball, because they had been in the World Series in 80. And a lot of my dad really hated the Pirates for some reason, but they used to be in our division.
See, it's weird to me that you know, I think the Celtics and the Lakers rivalry is very unique because it's hard for me to have a cross conference rivalry. You know what I mean? Right. Like cross conferences, because you really only time that it means anything is when you're playing for a championship, and the Celtics and the Lakers were just playing for it so often that they have a rivalry, and that's pretty wild to me when you talk about, you know, like Boston and New York. You know, in baseball, it's like, yeah, of course, you're division rivals, but you know, it's like it would be like saying, you know, I don't even know who it would be, Yankees, Dodgers, or something.
Which it just doesn't have that same bite. You know,
it was Yankees Braves for a while in the 90s.
Yeah, they certainly did seem to sort of have a mutual hatred.
But and then, you know, well, baseball's different. You don't play in the regular season and stuff. But back then you didn't.
Back then you didn't. You do now. Which is sort of why the Phillies could have had the potential to have a decent rivalry with Baltimore. They do have sort of a storied history. They played each other in the World Series in 1983. They do play each other pretty often now in interleague play, but Baltimore is just awful as an organization that it's never really taken hold.
Yeah, what do you think? You think you would call this an ugly game, Gene?
I would call it huge.
Mike D says it's an ugly game. I think it did turn into an ugly game. It started out like a gem. Like I thought we were going to coast, and then in the second half, it did get kind of ugly. I don't know I mean, do they tighten up against the Raptors or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
it's the cold Tampa air.
That's probably it. We all know that Philadelphia teams play horrible in Florida. Let's be honest.
Tampa. We talked about our rivalry with Tampa before. I get bad juju with Tampa, even though our spring training is right outside there.
I did remember as I've gone through that city. I've been through there a couple of times in my life. You do sort of get a cold chill when you come through, and not like a spooky chill as you come through the airport. Maybe
the Tampa airport.
Yeah, maybe the whole town's haunted.
I've never been to the Tampa airport.
You haven't? I went to a wedding once and had to fly in through Tampa and then rented a car and drove out to where the wedding was.
MCO every time when I go to Florida.
Well, yeah, I've been through Jacksonville's airport too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful city there, Jacksonville.
Yeah, parts of it were nice.
It's great. Some great Waffle Houses. So I can say, oh my gosh, this game's still on.
Yeah, no, we've increased our lead at least.
Yeah, no, I mean this game's over.
Doc Rivers has come on to court a couple of times to end this game.
No.
What a
Just
nightmare!
kidding. This game is not on anymore.
I want the last 40 minutes of my life back. I was listening to you guys, right? So,
and that's why you want the last 40 minutes of your life back?
I agree with you. I agree with you entirely, Gene. I've been calling this Milwaukee with palm trees all week. So
it appears that the game is now over, at least from what I can see.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. The game has finally. I'm pretty sure the last 90 seconds of game time took
that was excruciating.
5 years of my life. I think I am now 5 years older than I was 90 seconds of game time ago.
Yeah, somebody just said we played in overtime within that fourth quarter.
Credit Toronto. They have no incentive to make it comfortable for the Sixers. It was a 15-point lead with like 3 minutes left, I think. And Toronto was like, yeah, no, we're just still going to make it's the torture chamber.
It really is. It is.
We're not, we have no reason to let you out of it.
The Iron Maiden.
My Lord. All right. I'm going to
go ahead.
When we see Doc Rivers come up, we'll have to go to that. But
okay.
But let's keep talking. That was yeah.
But an important win, though. This is an important game, though, right?
Yeah.
It keeps us ahead of the Nets, who look like they're going to win in at home against the Kings, and this clinches the season series against the Raptors, right?
Yeah, I think it's also important to just finish it off and not let the Raptors stay rent-free in your head like they seem to be. I heard you guys talking about Joel Embiid, 2 games in a row. You say, this is as bad as you ever see him play right now. And the guy still has, I think he had 18 points on 13 shots. And the other night, as bad as he played, 6 for 20 from the field, sounds terrible, but he averaged 1.2 points per shot. Tonight, it's going to be more like 1.3, 1.4. It's really wild. 18-12, and you say that's the worst game he's played all year.
Right.
So you guys were right. I was listening to you. I thought it was very good. You nailed it. Just wow. I think I've forgotten everything that happened before the last 90 seconds of the game, though. I think it was so long ago.
It's like Nick Nurse held up one of those things that they have in the Men in Black thing, and it was like, here, everybody, forget what you've been watching, and now let's make a run. Yeah,
no, it's funny. When we came on for the show back 50 minutes ago, it seemed like a lifetime ago. I was super excited. I was all energized. Like, what a fun game to come back to after the horrible Sunday we had. And then it just kind of, I don't know, it spun out.
Hey, here I was listening to you guys talking about how much you'd pay to go to an arena to watch a game. I would pay $250 to have been able to leave an hour ago. That's so, Gene. I will give you $250 that you can spend on tickets to go see this team in Philadelphia. If I could have the last hour of my life back.
Hey, if I could make that happen, I think I'd probably take that deal.
You all for $250, you can make an easy $250. Create a time machine, take me back an hour, and also make this game have ended an hour earlier than it has.
See, here's the thing, though, Jay. The real reason I would want to do that is because I have been itching to have my odds increased at catching a T-shirt in an arena. I have a lot up to do in that front. I was once struck in the face by a T-shirt gun and knocked over my seat. So I truly need to make amends for that performance.
I bore witness to that event.
Well, hey, I'm going to take my headset off. I just realized you guys won't hear the press conference if this headset's on.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, what do you think? Do you think outside? I'm going to take the Nets out of the equation for a minute. Are the Raptors the worst matchup for the Sixers right now, outside of the Nets in the East?
It feels like it to me. The thing I always go back to with the Nets is I still don't know who they have that can actually guard Embiid, like for over the course of a series. Do they have a true good matchup for Embiid? You know what I mean? I feel like you can sort of use Simmons to shut down one of their big three, and sort of play.
Please put "shut down" in air quotes, right?
Shut down, yeah, contain or whatever.
Yeah,
but it feels like this Toronto team there are just more bad matchups all the way around that they can sort of throw at the Sixers, which is why it seems like they sort of struggle against them, and I, like Jason was saying, maybe there is sort of a mental issue that they need to overcome, and hopefully this was making strides towards doing that. I'm hoping that somebody else who is a much better matchup for this Raptors team knocks them off before we'd ever see them in a playoff series. But
yeah, and now Mike D saying the Jazz, but yeah, out in West, there's all kinds of matchup problems for us out West with the Trailblazers and
Blazers are real bad,
and the Jazz. And the Lakers are no cakewalk either. But yeah, I think navigating through the East, it's really going to be all about the Nets, I think.
Yeah, and I think that you need to keep yourself in position to be that 1 or 2 seed, because I think the other thing that's going to be important is being able to play in Philadelphia longer than you would have to play on the road.
Now, I think the Nets have a better chance of things spinning out and becoming drama more so than the Sixers right now. I feel like the Sixers are a little bit have more stability. There's less of like the prima donna aspect. I think there's less. I think everyone is like really stabilized with the Sixers. At least that's the way I feel, like chemistry wise.
Yeah.
I mean, the Nets really have figured it out, but I mean, that chemistry can change pretty quickly, as we've seen with Kyrie Irving teams in the past.
Well, I think that the Sixers have sort of know their roles, and I mean that in the positive sense of the word. They've sort of settled into what they do, and they know what strengths they have, and it's gotten to the point where now they're starting to trust each other more and more every week. So, yeah, it's been fun to watch this team sort of grow and change. I'm excited every time I get to see them take the court, because usually I see something different. And I'm excited to see what they can do against the rest of the East. I think that there's no team that they can't, give a run. There's nobody that I'm terrified of. There's nobody that I wouldn't want to step up.
Here we go. Let's go to Doc.
Hey guys. Coach, we're going to go to Kai Carlin with the first question. Go ahead, Kai.
Before we start, I just want to send my prayers out to Tiger Woods and his family, man. Like, he means a lot to a lot of people, for a lot more than just sports. Man, I don't know how many blows this guy can take, but he's a tough kid. Always has been. So just want to send that out.
All right. Hey, Coach. Does it seem like the Raptors, again, just sent like a bunch of aggressive double teams towards Joel, but even though he only shot 3 for 13 and I think he only had like 1 or 2 assists, it just really seemed like he really made the right decision.
He did overall. I thought down the stretch, we got a little loose with the ball, but overall, I was fine. It's a great example, and we missed some great shots. But I thought we had a chance to have a high-scoring night with him taking the ball out of Joel's hands. And, it's almost like what we talked about earlier in the year when, I think we had 120 one game and Ben didn't take a 3. And we're like, Ben didn't take a 3. Like tonight, if we had to score 120 and Joel was whatever, we still got to 120. And sometimes that's how you have to win. I thought our guys overall played great. I thought our defense was probably top 2 or 3 of the year as far as sustained defense through the game. So I was really proud with that. The turnovers hurt us. They had 18 of them. They forced 18. But overall, I thought Joel was great with the ball, made the right decisions. We made the right decisions. That's how you win games.
And then overall, real quick, Furkan, 19 points, maybe we'll bust out of his slump. What's that say about him and his mental toughness?
Yeah, just with the starters, he has to do less, which allowed him to do more. He didn't have to put the ball on the floor as much. He didn't have to, the game. He allowed the game to come to him. Trapping Ben or Joel, one of the thoughts before the game, if Seth can't play, who's our next best spot-up shooter? And Furk was the guy, and so he really came through for us.
Thanks, Coach.
We're going to go to Paul Hudrick and then Jackson Frank. Paul, go ahead.
Hey, Doc. Shake hit a couple really big shots down the stretch. Just how big is it for you to have him back just in the lineup and able to play him? And then how do you think he looked with that lineup with the starters out there?
He looked good. Because he's another guy. The way Toronto plays with the trapping and all that, we needed another guy that can put the ball on the floor and make a play. And that's why we kept Shake out on the floor, and I thought he handled it pretty well.
Thanks, Doc.
Rich, you're up.
Hey, Doc, I know you said that you thought Joel made the right play, but 18 turnovers. Is that just a matter of, like you said, how Toronto was playing, and can other teams?
Well, I would say 4 or 5 of them came down the stretch, So I thought that was more helter-skelter, forcing turnovers, and we didn't handle that well. But through the game, if you go through the first 3.5 quarters, I thought it was a pretty low turnover game, and I'll take the way we played there. I didn't like how we closed the game out. I thought we kind of let up, made some bad plays, bad turnovers, careless plays. So I didn't like that. But overall, you'll read the 18 number and we look at that. But in the meat of the game, we didn't turn the ball over that much. And so I looked at that more.
I noticed out of a couple of timeouts, you did run plays for Tobias. And, that's something you do a lot. But was there something about, how Toronto was playing that you thought that was the right call tonight?
Yeah, they didn't want to switch with Joel. And the guards were able to fight over it, but not with Tobias. And with his size, we thought he can get in the paint and make plays, and he did that.
We're going to go next to Mark Narducci and then Keith Pompey. Mark, go ahead first.
Hey, Doc, can we just get your reaction on Ben making the All-Star team and Tobias not making it?
Yeah, I was really happy for Ben. I didn't think it was, I guess it was, I don't know. I didn't think I was pretty positive he would make it. I think, coaches look at the whole game. They look at all the things that Ben does. It's funny, every coach I talk to, like literally every Eastern coach I talked to, when I said, hey, I'm calling on behalf of Ben and Tobias, and they were like, Ben, why are you calling about him? It was funny how they looked at it and how the outside world looked at it. So I thought that was interesting that I was pretty confident. I told Ben, there's no way you're not on. I was really hoping for Tobias. I do believe he deserves it. He's been an all-star player this year for us. We have the best record in the East. And because of that and the way he's played, I thought he deserved to be on it. I think we have to keep analyzing, how guys get numbers and how much they affect winning.
Got time for 3 more guys. It's going to be Lauren, Keith, Jackson. Lauren, go ahead.
I'll actually withdraw because I was going to ask about Ben, and I thought I lowered my hand. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Hi.
Keith Jackson and David.
Doc, in regards to Tobias, I mean, when we talked pregame, you talked about as one of those things you may be disappointed for a day, but you come back, you come out and play. I mean, you have to be happy with his performance, coming off of this. I mean, he played well.
He's as mature as anybody in our locker room, including the coaches. He's just a mature kid. Like he clearly wanted to make it, and I clearly wanted him to make it. But the best way to handle the disappointment is go out and show people you can play. Go out and get 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, 2 block shots. That's what Tobias has been doing all year. And, maybe we keep winning and go win the whole thing, and then next year he will be on. So sometimes you play and make it the year before you make it. Hopefully that's the case for him.
Thanks.
Go Jackson and David real quick. Jackson and then David. Jackson, go ahead.
Hey, Doc, just following up from kind of what we talked about pregame with Ben's kind of different role offensively. How would you assess how he kind of adjusted and playing in that new role this year?
I thought he wanted to do it right away. You can see that what we told him, like, we're putting the ball in your hands more. You could tell he wanted to do it right away. It just took, a couple of weeks for him to see what we needed him to do. I think he knows exactly now, and he's doing it, and it's been great for us.
All right, last one to David Melandra.
Hey, Coach, how does it feel to end your 4-game losing streak on the road?
I didn't know it, so I guess now that you said it, I guess I'm happy, but I didn't realize that we had lost 4 in a row. So, I mean, I really don't. I don't look at that as much as you guys look at it, and you should. I don't. I just judge on how we're playing. I thought the other night we played terrific and gave the game away down the stretch. I thought tonight we played terrific through the game. So this was a tough one. You lose that first one in the 2-game series on the road. Winning that second one's hard. So I was really proud of our guys tonight.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
All right, there we have it. Doc Rivers has spoken. We'll get some players, probably 2 to 3 players. You guys know the deal. Thanks for everyone who's joined us post-game. This is an extension of the Podadelphia Podcast, one of my favorite podcasts on the Painted Lines YouTube network. Probably my favorite. So we're doing a little bit of a crossover. We've got Dave and Gene from Podadelphia. They sort of led us into this post game. You guys, take it back. What are your thoughts? This is maybe your first time being on this side of it during Doc's post game. I know you guys watch it probably quite a bit. You watch the games. What are your takeaways?
Yeah, I just thought it, really no surprises there. Amazing support for Tobias. And I thought it was, the make it before you make it season for the All-Stars, I think is pretty spot on there. And I hope his prophecy of just go ahead and win it all and then, get that notoriety and then make it next year comes to fruition for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And you hear that quite a bit. And the All-Star game, to be fair, happens mid-season, so it really should take into account that the second half of the previous season plus the first half of this season. That's not how it's often thought about. I think narratives in the NBA tend to get written in the first month and then reinforced or undermined after that. But I think, like you said, Dave, earlier, it's hard to argue that he should have taken spots from a couple of those other guys. So, Gene, what are your thoughts?
Well, one of the things I wanted to sort of bring up was I think it's interesting how different Tobias just even seems from last year to this year. I think that you can't separate the change in the coach from his sort of change in play. The other thing I wanted to sort of comment on was a lot of talk about Ben Simmons and sort of finding his new role in the offense. And Jason, I wanted to ask you, do you think that you see him sort of settling into this sort of new role? Do you see anything different in what he's been doing? I honestly do think that there's a lot of correlation between how he's played the last 3 weeks, as to how he ended up getting into the All-Star game. And I think that that's a credit to his own play. He had a career high himself just a few weeks ago. And, he's becoming more and more consistent. Certainly he's still, if not the best defender in the NBA, certainly in the conversation. So what was your takeaway on some of the feedback that we got about his new role in the offense?
Well, I think it's a different offense. I thought it was an interesting comment. I think that those first couple of weeks he was very uncomfortable with the way that teams were game planning him. They were walling him off. I probably talked on your podcast about it. The book was out on what to do with Ben. I think it was the secondary and tertiary actions off of creating that downhill pressure, which he's always done. That has changed, right? Where guys move to, how guys move off ball as that's happening. I think he has become more comfortable with what to expect and what to do when the defense collapses. So I think a lot of what Doc said is just how coaches think. There's just no doubt in my mind that when opposing coaches build a game plan to stop the Sixers, number one on the list of what to do is how do we deal with Embiid? And number two, always, period, is what to do against Ben Simmons. And then it's the, how much of that can you get away with doing one thing to solve both problems, or do the solutions to each of those problems, 1 and 2, create a bigger nightmare for the other one? And that's where the two of those guys go from being just all-stars that get knocked out in the second round to having a chance to win the whole thing. Tobias Harris, to me, is number 3 very clearly. And I think the coaches around the league just feel that way, right? When they game plan, it's, look, we'll live with a 23-7-5 game. So I don't know. I think Ben has taken a huge leap. I think he's walking off the floor now. On the defensive side, just his command of the game. But offensively, I don't see the huge leap maybe that is being talked about in the last couple of weeks. In fact, the last 2 games, I just think taking only 3 shots in the second half on Sunday night is just can't do that. You're dominating the other team, creating so much havoc to build that lead in the first half. To take 1 shot in the fourth quarter the other night, you just can't have it. And you made the shot, but I want to see you go 1 for 6 a couple of times.
Yeah,
and fight through it. So maybe I'm harder on him than people, or maybe my expectations because of what I see every night are higher than what I think he can do. Justin is here with us. So we've got this is truly a crossover episode, right, Justin? We got you and I on post game, and we got Dave and Gene from Podadelphia.
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the whole game, at least the whole second half, to me, it felt like we were down, but we weren't. The whole second.
Yeah, then I'm pretty sure the Sixers have been down for 3 years. I think it took 3 years.
Yeah, it's just the whole game we were up by a solid 10 to 15 points, and just the whole second half it felt like we could not get the ball moving on offense. We couldn't generate open looks. It didn't look great. Obviously, it doesn't help that Embiid just had an off night tonight. Just couldn't hit his shots, and that's going to happen. He's not going to be perfect every day. But with what you guys were just talking about, Ben Simmons, I honestly don't think he's doing much different than he has in the past. I think it's a difference in like mindset more than it is offense for him. I think at times he's learned that it's okay to be a little bit more aggressive, and I think that's been like the uncomfortability in his play at points is like because he looks so much to pass and get his teammates involved in the offense, he just doesn't think like, okay, well, I'm 6'10", 6'11", and I can drive to the rim and go over the top of somebody. Instead, he's looking to pass when he gets a little bit of pressure on him, going into the paint. So I think the biggest difference in his scoring uptick lately has just been his mindset of being like, okay, I'm going to be more aggressive more often than he used to be. It doesn't seem like he's generating different differences in like how he's getting those, if you know what I mean. But
can I ask you guys a question? So there's a lot of talk about Kyle Lowry and a potential trade. What would that do to the offensive Ben Simmons?
Jason, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, I don't love the fit, honestly.
I'm with you.
I don't. There's like this groundswell of, well, of course they moved for Kyle Lowry. I'm like, I don't know. I watch this team play offense and defense every night. Where does he?
Yeah.
Where does he stand? Where does he stand? And when he's got the ball, where does Ben Simmons stand?
Yeah.
And
it just doesn't make it like if you could convince me that like I still don't love this move, but you could convince me that Buddy Hield would be a decent like you could convince me that. If you were like, hey, this will add more consistent shooting, like you could convince me that. But the Kyle Lowry one, like I could see if we're having a trouble guarding people that are guards. I could see if we were having trouble with like that's really it. Because otherwise, like what is he gonna do that's different than what we already have right now? Besides maybe shot creation at the end of games. But in my opinion, you already have a shot creator at the end of games. You have Joel Embiid. If you want to go out and get somebody else who's maybe able to consistently go on the outside, go out and get a different guy. Like you don't need to have that much. You don't need to put that much draft capital and that much money into a trade to get a guy who can shoot a little better from the perimeter at the end of games. Like you can go grab a Wayne Ellington who's like real cheap. You can go possibly trade for a JJ Redick. And if you want to make a big move with that kind of money, personally, I would much rather you go try to get a guy like Zach LaVine. Like I would much rather you do that because offensively, completely it makes sense. Then because you have a guy in Zach LaVine who can hit his open jump shots, you have a guy who can play off ball successfully, cut to the rim, can play somewhat defense. Like overall, just the fit's better. So personally, for me, I'm with Jason on that one. Kyle just doesn't make as much sense to me as much as our man Brian Jacobs likes him.
Yeah, it's not like you get 8 guys and you throw them in a stew pot and the best 8 guys beat the other team's best 8 guys. That's just not how schematic team sports work. It's just not how it works. It's they think, oh, we need another point guard, so we'll get the point guard. It's not that simple.
Do you think that the perception is that you can't have a 7-foot center be your go-to guy at the end of games? Do you think that that's just sort of how NBA fans perceive the game? Is that doesn't jive, that doesn't make any sense, and that it's there's sort of like a dissonance between basketball fans and the fact that like with our own eyes we can see that if you need a shot at the end of the game, you need to go to Embiid because he's the one most likely to hit it.
Yeah, I need to go on this one, Jason. That is one of the things that makes me so annoyed about the NBA right now is everyone's mind when it comes to shot creators at the end of games goes to they need to be able to hit deep ass threes or need to be able to hit off dribble shots up behind the line. You don't need that. Like, yes, that is awesome, amazing to have, but if you have a guy like JoJo who can shoot over anybody's head in the mid range, and mind you, I think more of the issue that people have had with Joel Embiid is that he hasn't been consistent enough in those regards, in the mid-range shots, in the pull-up jumpers in the inside. This year has been the first year you've really seen a balloon in that where he's been hitting it at a higher clip. So I personally, where Embiid is right now in his game, I don't think you need that perimeter. And I do think it is kind of a mindset that NBA fans have right now, that you need to have a guy like Kawhi Leonard who can go on the inside, hit the mid-range shot, hit the three-pointer. And also the fact is JoJo can hit threes. Like, I mean, mind you, he's not the guy, like, ideally that you'd want shooting threes, but he can do it. Like, we've seen it happen. So it's just
Yeah, so here's the thing with Kyle Lowry. Here's what is so great about him is made him such a fantastic player for so long. He is, he's 6'3", but he is just built like a tank. And he is able to, if he gets switched on to a big man, he's just got that low center of gravity and enough gravity to not get you killed. So he really helps a team that is worried about getting switched to death until you get a mismatch, a big on a guard. On the other end of the floor, it's the same thing. He can post up, sleight of build guards, take them down into the woodshed, and make them hurt teams down low. This is all great stuff. None of that applies to this Sixers team. None of that applies to, like, okay, and if they had that magic special sauce, they would now be a better team. They would be very marginally better on certain possessions. All right, we've got a player, looks like Furkan Korkmaz. It's always Thanksgiving on the Painted Lions because we are serving turkey every night.
I hate that has not become your catchphrase. I don't love it. I hate it. Come on, Jason. Be better.
Furkan, how did it feel to heat up so early and then be so productive, especially in that first quarter?
I mean, for me, that was a good challenge today because I needed one of these games. Last 4 or 5 games, I was struggling. We can definitely say that. But that today, he trusted me. He gave me that confidence. He started the game. And then I think I did a good job.
And then before the game, we learned that Ben was named an All-Star for the 3rd year in a row. So what has it been like to be Ben's teammate this year, and what do you think makes him an All-Star?
I'm so happy for him because I see his growth on the court, off the court, especially. He's more mature now. He knows the game more. I'm really happy for him because he deserves it. I know he's going to be there until his career is over. I'm really happy for him.
Thanks, Ferk.
Next, we'll go to Martin Arducci.
Hey, Ferk, you talked about you had been struggling. Just how tough has it been to go through, the last 6 games, which have really, really been difficult for you?
I mean, yeah, everybody has some ups and downs in their careers, but sometimes just 2 games, sometimes like 4 or 5 games. Mine has been a little bit longer than that. So, but I've been through this a lot in my career, so I just need to find out how to get away with it quicker. I'm trying on the court, off the court. I just been working hard, and then I knew that it's gonna come, but I just didn't know when. Today, I hope it's a good start for me again.
Next is Kai Carlin.
If our coach was talking about how it was a lot, there was less for you to do with the starting unit, which allowed you to do more. Do you feel like maybe when you're coming off the bench, there's a lot more pressure on you to do more offensively, and maybe that affected your slump a little bit?
I mean, I will say this. With the first unit, we played different basketball. With the second unit, we played different basketball. Especially with first unit, we create more threes because Ben is in the game, Joel is in the game. With the second unit, we don't create that much threes. We are trying to play like driving, kick games and everything, but at the end of the day, we don't take that much threes. We don't create it. I think that's the biggest difference. But for me, it doesn't matter coming off the bench, starting the game. I just need to be responsible of my job. Doesn't matter if I start or not. So I just need to keep doing my team.
Thanks, Ferk.
Let's go to Austin Krell.
Hey, Ferk. The first quarter, you have 4 of your 5 made threes there. It kind of felt like this, in this game in particular, your off-ball movement and relocation around the court was improved from seasons past. Have you done any kind of extra work on your off-ball movement to sort of get those better looks than you were in the past?
I mean, I've been watching a lot of tapes. I'm trying to watch other shooters, how they get in the position, how they mold the game. But especially game is so easy when you play with Joe and Ben because they open the court a lot for you because teams needs to help them more and then you become more open. So it's easy to get those spots when you play with them.
All right, we're going to do these last three here. Sean, David, Serge. Sean, you go first.
Hey, Furkan. It felt like this was a game when you guys kind of had them at arm's length, but were never able to fully put them away. What do you think was the cause for this? And even down the stretch, why was that happening?
I think this type of games, when you play against Toronto, they play hard. They're a good team. They have a good team. And then just for don't get nervous. I got nervous now. All-Star is here, They have a good team. They have a really talented team. After losing the first game, this game was really important for us because we got to get the confidence back. We know what we can do. But after the first lose, we just need to react, and then we reacted to win.
All right, David and Serge, bang, bang. Go ahead, David.
Can you talk about some of the challenges you guys are going through this season, playing the same team back to back, and then how's it feel to end your 4-game road losing streak?
First of all, this season is not easy because nothing is normal. I think that's the fun part about this season. But we all know we are playing for the championship. We don't need to look at the opponents. We just need to be ourselves every day, every night. And then we just need to keep focusing on how we can get the championship. But like I said, this season is not normal.
Serge, go ahead.
Merhaba Furkan.
Merhaba.
Nasılsın, iyi misin?
İyiyim, sen nasılsın?
İyilik ya, ne yapalım? Furkan, 2 soru. Tabii ki pazar günü maalesef ilk dakika oynadın sadece. Dakika konuştun mu? Hani son 24 saat falan, çünkü hani psikolojik açısından bayağı kötü bir durum. Ve ikinci sorum şu. Türkiye Eurobasket 2022 katılacak. Senin için nasıl bir duygu?
Dakika konuştum. Zaten bana sürekli inancını dile getiriyor. Bana güvenmeyi sürekli söylüyor. Bugün de maçtan önce onunla konuştuk. Beni başlatmak istediğini söyledi. Ben de olabildiğince sahada iyi performans göstermeye çalıştım. Tabii ki kolay değil. Az oynuyorsunuz, çok oynuyorsunuz ama günün sonunda önemli olan kazanmak. Dilerinde iyi bir performans göstermende. Milli takıma gelecek olursak bence maçları da seyrettim, takip ettim elimden geldiğince. Çok iyi oynadılar. Onlarla gurur duyuyorum gerçekten. Keşke orada olabilseydim, onlarla beraber sahada olabilseydim. Ama neler yapabileceğimizi, neler yapabileceklerini gösterdiler. Bizli veya bizsiz. Bence o takımın çok büyük potansiyeli var. Umarım en kısa zamanda milli formaya kavuşurum ben.
Thanks, Ferg. Guys, we're going to have Ben coming up right up here. Let's see some hands. And Patrick, can you just hit the unmute? Sorry about that.
My bad. There you go.
Oh, you're good. I did it on mine. All right. Benny, first one's from Lauren.
Hey, Ben, Doc just told us that when he called other coaches to talk about All-Star, that there was never really a doubt that you were going to get voted in this year and that you've built up a respect around the league among coaches, that they just consider you an All-Star now. What does that reputation mean to you?
I think that means more than, fan votes and things like that, personally for me, just because, they see the game, they know the game. They're coaching games every night. They see the talent out there, and there's a lot of talented guys out there. But I'm the type of player who can do a lot of things on the floor. I'm glad, a lot of coaches appreciate that and see that.
Thank you, Ben. Congrats.
Thank you.
Got Jason Blevins.
Hey, Ben. Doc just said it early in the season. It took you a few weeks to really see what they wanted you to do. You were getting into the teeth of the defense really from the first game. So how subtle are those nuances as far as where your outlets would be, where your threes were going to come from?
Wait a minute. Tell me one more time.
So Doc said it took a couple of weeks at the beginning of the season.
What's your question?
Like, how subtle are the differences with your outlets? Like,
in terms of finding my guys?
Yeah, finding your guys.
Okay. It's different every game, but I keep encouraging my guys to fill the corners, play with pace, and just keep moving. That's one thing we try to do a lot is keep moving. So I mean, every game's different depending on the matchups and things like that. But I'm still trying to find my guys every night, and I'm with the spacing we have now. Seth, Danny, T's has been shooting the hell out of the ball. Furkan, guys just playing really well, so they just make it easier for me. I'm still trying to stay aggressive and find them when I can.
Thank you.
Go to Jackson and then Paul.
Hey, Ben. Doc talked pregame about how, he thinks you're being used more as a screener, dribble handoff guy compared to previous years. Is that a fair assessment? How do you kind of feel you're adjusting to maybe a role more as a guy who's screening and doing the dribble handoff? How do you kind of feel like that adjustment is coming this year for you?
I'm just a player. I try to read the defense. If I see, a mismatch, I try to make it tough on them. I feel like my IQ is pretty high. I play at a high level with my IQ and just trying to make the right plays every time. And then, obviously defensively on that side, trying to do my thing.
Gonna go 3 more. Paul, Mark, Chris. Paul, go ahead.
Hey, Ben. Doc said that it was, for you guys, your second or third best defensive performance of the season tonight. Would you agree with that assessment? And what do you think was kind of working for you guys tonight?
I think overall, we held the intensity to a high level. I don't think it was our best game defensively, one of our best. We lacked a little bit in the third and fourth, but we stuck with it. Toronto is always going to be a team that stays around. They fight nonstop. They never give up. So for us to stay locked in, we knew it was going to be a challenge, especially against a championship team like that.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, Mark and then Chris.
Hey, Ben, could you just give your reaction on what it meant to you to be an All-Star?
Yeah, it means a lot. It's a blessing. I don't take it for granted. There's a lot of talented guys out there. I think, the mentality I have every season, come in and try to win, and everything else will take care of itself. So, I don't go for individual accolades unless it's Defensive Player of the Year, which I think, which I want to get this year. I think I should be up there for that. But I want to compete. I want to play against the best players every night and show why I'm in this league.
Can I have a quick follow and just your thoughts on the lift that Furk gave you in the first quarter and the game?
Yeah, he was huge. We expect great games from Furk. His IQ is actually very high on the floor. Offensively, he's gotten a lot better, finishing through contact and getting to the rim, and obviously knock down shooting. So he's been great for us, and defensively he's been great. I think, he's taking the challenge of, last season guys were going at him and trying to, pick on him a little bit. But, they're not doing that this season. He's really stepped it up.
All right, we got time for one more. Chris Krause, go ahead.
Hey, Ben. Last week, Bradley Beal talked about how there's guys around the league that aren't really sure about the All-Star game because there's not going to be fans there. It's not going to be the same experience. Now that you've been selected, are you going to go?
What do you mean?
Are you going to attend the All-Star game?
Yeah, I got selected. I believe the NBA is going to make it very safe for us, and they're not going to put us at risk to, get sick or anything like that. It's my job, man. It's my job. I love what I do. I'm going to be there.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Ben. So we will have tomorrow's schedule for you as soon as possible, guys. Appreciate you joining us.
All right. So, Dave and Gene, Dave, you definitely know what I mean by that last hour, because I think I've kept you guys well over a half hour longer than your normal. So I'm just sharing my pain.
Hey, if you've been listening to our show for any length of time, you know that we're no strangers to the 90-minute podcast.
Yeah.
Well, if you've been watching any Sixers watch parties and or post-game shows, we are not strangers to being on here for 4.5 hours.
Yeah. All right. So final thoughts, guys. Thank you for everyone who's joined. Love the comments. I know Justin right before Furk sat down You said you hate the catchphrase. Should I retire it?
Nah. You're good.
Should I retire? I'll bring it. I'll put it on a twice a month rule. I can only
You're already done then. I think you said it twice already. You said it last game.
by 2 for February. I'll see you in March.
There we go. My God.
Gene.
Yeah, man. First of all, you should be able to use that nickname anytime you want, because if you're saying Furkan's name, that means he's probably doing really well.
No, it's the Thanksgiving joke that I can say.
Well, maybe it's coming up on Canadian Thanksgiving. I have no idea when that. I feel like
that's in the middle of the summer, I think.
Oh, okay. But listen, the one thing I wanted to say was I thought it was interesting that Ben does seem to sort of make it his carrying card that he wants to be Defensive Player of the Year this year. And, that's sort of the thing that I want to hear from him, is that he's putting a lot of a stock in his own defensive ability, because at the end of the day, even if your shot's off, you can still play with that sort of defensive intensity that you want to be the Defensive Player of the Year. And there's not any coach that's going to be like, well, you should tone that defense down. We'd really rather you be a revolving door under there. So that's one of those things that even when I remember when I was a kid, there was never any coach that I ever had that ever was like, hey, yeah, let's try some of that soft defense, so I'm excited.
Gene, you played basketball with me. That's most of the defense I played.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, let's see if you can shoot.
Yeah, because if you try to drive on Jason, forget about it. You're just dead meat. The ball's going to be going the other way real quick. So, but that excites me. I certainly think he sort of got to, when he said that he's aware that he's sort of now been an all-star and it's sort of an expectation maybe. But he doesn't seem to not appreciate the moment. And, hey, he even said he's ready to attend. So, it'll make it worth watching now that I know I got 2 Sixers on the squad to keep my attention.
Yeah, I found the question I asked him. He gave me the answer without sort of declaring it, but I now that I think about it, a lot of his pick sixes early in the season were his outlets were technically corner threes, but they were very close to the break point. So where those sidelines turn into the arc, and those are easy to jump. I have noticed in the last 2 games, certainly the corner threes they're taking are right near the baseline, which is almost behind the basket.
Yeah.
And that extra few feet, I think, creates an easier outlet once you're all the way to the rim. It's a much easier outlet. It's a higher difficulty shot, but it's much harder to jump that passing lane because it's just so much deeper.
The other thing that sort of sparked in my mind was just thinking back to last year, how many games, even if there were guys that were getting into those corner positions and Ben was finding them, how often that was Mike Scott instead of Seth Curry. You know what I mean? I think that there's a big difference in the personnel that certainly I think helps Ben's confidence to know that he's throwing out the guys that are going to knock those shots down. And, there's something to be said for having the team created around him to sort of have that be a successful offense.
Yeah, and you see the same thing with Joel, to be honest, as well, because he said it multiple times in the past 2 years, is like he feels like he has to put so much offensive energy on himself because when he passes out to people, they're not hitting shots. Like, and he may not have said that straight up, but you can tell.
He has said that straight up.
Maybe he hasn't. So like my point with that is like you look at like even like the best year that we've had before this year was when you had guys like Marco Bellinelli and Irsani Ilyasova out there that they could pass out to because they had a big man who could shoot and they had a guy who could run around and shoot the pill as well. And so it's like having Seth Curry out there, Danny Green, both guys you could trust, plus having Tobias out there. It's just, there's a trust that comes with it. And a star player can only do so much in what they're at what they're stars of. So, like, obviously there's some star players in the league that can do everything. Well, Joe specifically does well in the paint. So does Ben Simmons. So if you have role players out there that can shoot, isn't this crazy? We have role players that can shoot. But if you have those guys that can shoot, it's so much more relaxed, and you can trust your teammates more. And I think that's what you see with both players now. You see that with both Ben and Joel, that they just feel like they look more comfortable on the court. They don't look like they're rushing all the time or that they're heaving up bad shots. I mean, at least that's what I see.
And conversely, it's a team where a shooter can flourish. When you look at a player exactly like Furkan Korkmaz, who we just heard from, you know, he's reaping the benefits from all of that paint work that's going on. So, yeah, it works both ways for that.
I said a similar thing about Tobias real quick, Jason. Sorry, but I said a similar thing about Tobias Harris is like last year and years with Brett Brown. Like, I think a big reason why he struggled so much is, and I think this has been talked about, but he was put in a role that he just was never used to before. When he was put in a role as like had to be the best 3-point shooter in the starting lineup, and that's just not what he is. He's not a super like high volume outside scorer. It's just not him. So now that you have those 3-point shooters, like you said, that thrive in this offense, that takes the weight off of Joel, off of Tobias to have to make 3-pointers, to have to shoot them at a higher rate. I mean, I don't know what Tobias's numbers are in comparison to this year than last year on how many 3-point attempts he's taking per game, but I would be surprised if it wasn't significantly lower. And that's because you have those other 3-point shooters.
Yeah, I can look it up, but I'm not going to because Dave, you're gonna bring it home on Podadelphia. You're gonna take us home, take us out.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking about the Wentz trade, some more Sixers action, Flyers. Hopefully they get back to the winning ways. So if you haven't done so already, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Also, be sure to check out the Painted Lines and follow them for all of your Philadelphia sports coverage. We'll be back next week. So until then, have a great day at work, everybody. We are out of here.